When my daughter-in-law told me to leave, I smiled instead of crying. I still remember the way her voice sounded. Calm, firm, almost polite, as if she was asking me to pass the salt, not to leave the house I had once called my own. Ami, it would be better if you stayed somewhere else for a while. For a moment, I thought I had heard her wrong. The room was quiet, too quiet, the kind of silence that presses on your chest and makes your heart beat louder than it should. I looked at her face. She did not look angry. She did not look guilty either. Just distant. My son was standing behind her. My little boy, the same boy I had once carried in my arms when he had a fever. The same boy who used to hold my hand tightly when crossing the road. He did not meet my eyes. That hurt more than her words. I smiled. I do not know why I smiled. Maybe because I did not want them to see me break. Maybe because at my age, you learn that tears do not change anything. Of course, I said softly. If that is what you both think is best. My voice did not shake. I was proud of that. Inside, something was quietly falling apart. It is strange how life changes. When you are young, you think love will protect you from everything. You believe that if you give your whole heart to your children, they will never let you feel alone. I believed that too. I am 78 years old now. My hands tremble sometimes. My steps are slower, but my memories, they are still sharp, clear, alive, and some of them, they still hurt. I was not always this quiet woman. There was a time when my house was full of laughter, full of noise, full of life. I had 2 children, my eldest, my son, Adil, and my younger one, my daughter, Sana. Adil was my pride, my first child. When he was born, I felt like the world had given me a treasure I must protect at all costs. His father, my husband, passed away when Adil was only 8 years old. I still remember that day too. The sky was gray. It had been raining since morning. The kind of rain that makes everything feel heavy. People came and went. Voices whispered. Someone held my shoulder. Someone told me to be strong. But all I could see was my children. Adil stood quietly in the corner, trying to understand what had happened. Sana, only 4 at the time, kept asking, "Where is Baba?" I had no answers. That day, I made a promise. I promised myself that I would become both mother and father for them. I would not let them feel the absence too deeply. I would give them everything I could. And I did. Life was not easy after that. Money was always tight. I started stitching clothes for neighbors. Long nights, tired eyes, aching back, but I never complained. Every rupee I earned, every bit of energy I had, it was all for them. I still remember Adil sitting beside me while I worked. "Ami, you should sleep," he would say. I would smile and touch his head. "I will, beta, just a little more work." He was a good boy. Quiet, responsible, too responsible for his age. Sometimes, I would catch him watching me, with worry in his eyes. That used to break my heart. Children should not carry worries. But life does not always ask what is fair. Years passed. Slowly, things got better. Adil studied hard, very hard. I made sure of that. Even if it meant skipping meals, I paid for his education. "Your future matters more than anything," I would tell him. And he listened. When he got his first job, I cried that night. Not from sadness, but from relief. I felt like maybe, just maybe, all those years of struggle had been worth it. Then came the day he brought her home. His wife, Nadia, she was beautiful, soft-spoken, well-dressed, from a good family. I welcomed her with an open heart. I remember holding her hands and saying, "You are not my daughter-in-law. You are my daughter now." And I meant it, truly. For the first few months, everything seemed fine. We shared meals together. We laughed. We talked. I tried my best to make her feel comfortable. But slowly, small things began to change. It started with little silences. Moments where she would stop talking when I entered the room. Soft conversations between her and Adil that ended when I walked in. At first, I told myself I was imagining things. "Do not overthink," I would whisper to myself. But a mother knows, even when she tries not to. One evening, I was in the kitchen, making tea. I heard Nadia's voice from the living room. She interferes too much, she said quietly. My hands stopped moving. There was a pause. Then Adil's voice, softer. She is just like that. She cares. I know, Nadia replied. But we need our own space. Space. Such a simple word. But that day, it felt heavy. I stood there for a long time, staring at the boiling water. I did not go to the living room right away. I needed a moment, just a moment, to gather myself. After that, I tried to step back. I spoke less. I stayed more in my room. I made sure not to interrupt them. If they were talking, I would quietly walk away. If they went out, I would not ask questions. I told myself, this is what good mothers do. They give space. They adjust. They understand. But sometimes, no matter how much you adjust, it is never enough. The day everything truly changed was not loud. There was no fight, no shouting, just quiet words and quiet decisions, the kind that slowly erase you from a place you once belonged to. That morning, I woke up early. Old habits never leave you. I made breakfast, parathas, Adil's favorite. As I placed them on the table, I felt a small happiness in my heart. Maybe today will be a good day, I thought. Maybe things will feel normal again. We sat together, but something felt different. Nadia did not eat much. Adil kept looking at his phone. The silence between us was not peaceful. It was heavy, unspoken. Then she said it, calmly, gently, like it was already decided. Ami, we have been thinking. And just like that, my world began to shift. Ami, we have been thinking. Her voice was soft, careful, like she had practiced those words many times before saying them out loud. I looked at her, then at my son. Adil still did not meet my eyes. That was when I knew, whatever she was about to say, it had already been decided. We feel, she continued, folding her hands in her lap, it might be better for everyone if you stayed somewhere else for a while. For a while, such gentle words, but they did not feel gentle. I waited. Sometimes silence makes people say more. But no one spoke. Even the clock on the wall sounded louder than usual. Tick, tick, tick. I could hear my own breathing. Somewhere else? I asked quietly. Yes, she said, just until things settle. You know, we need some space. To build our life, build their life. As if I was standing in the way of it. I turned to Adil. Beta? Just one word. That was all I could manage. He shifted slightly in his seat, cleared his throat. I think, it might be good for everyone. Ami, good for everyone. I nodded slowly. Of course, if it was good for everyone, then who was I to say no? That was the moment I smiled. Not because I was happy, but because I did not want them to carry the weight of my pain. Of course, I said. You are young. You need your space. My voice sounded calm, even to me, but inside, something was breaking very quietly, like a glass placed too close to the edge, finally slipping. After breakfast, I went to my room. I closed the door gently, not loudly, not dramatically, just gently, the way I had done for years. I sat on the edge of my bed, and for the first time in a long while, I let myself feel everything. The room looked the same. My old cupboard, the small table by the window, the faded curtains I had stitched myself many years ago. This room had seen everything. My tears, my prayers, my quiet moments. And now, it was watching me again. But this time, I felt like a stranger inside it. I opened my cupboard. My clothes were neatly folded. Simple suits, old shawls, nothing fancy. I had never needed much. I reached for my suitcase. The same one I had used years ago, when we moved into this house. Back then, it had been filled with hope. Now, it felt heavy, even before I placed anything inside. As I packed, memories came back, one by one. Adil's first school uniform, his laughter when he got his first salary, the day he brought Nadia home. Ami, this is the girl I want to marry. He had looked so happy, and I had been happy too. I truly was. I folded my shawl slowly. My hands trembled a little, not because of age, but because of what I was leaving behind. This was not just a house. This was my life. Every corner had a memory. Every wall had heard my voice. And now, I was packing it all into one small suitcase. There was a soft knock on the door. Ami? It was Adil. I wiped my eyes quickly. Yes, Beta, come in. He stepped inside, looked around the room, then at the suitcase. For a moment, something moved in his eyes. Something like hesitation, or maybe regret, but it passed quickly. You don't have to rush, he said. I am not rushing, I replied gently. Just organizing a few things. He nodded. Silence filled the room again. I will arrange a place for you, he added. Somewhere comfortable. Comfortable. I almost smiled at that word. What is comfort? When your own home is no longer yours. But I did not say that. Instead, I nodded. Thank you, Beta. He stood there for a few seconds longer, as if he wanted to say something else. But then he turned and left. The door closed softly behind him. And once again, I was alone. That evening, I sat by the window. The sky was turning orange. Then slowly, darker, I watched people walking outside. Families, children, laughter, life, moving forward, as if nothing had changed. But inside me, everything had changed. The next day, I left the house. No big goodbye, no tears, no drama, just a quiet exit. Nadia stood near the door. Take care, Ami, she said. Her voice was polite, respectful, but distant. I nodded. You too, Beta. Adil carried my suitcase outside. I will call you, he said. I looked at him. For a moment, I wanted to say so many things. Why, Beta, what did I do wrong? Was I a burden to you? But I said none of it. At my age, you learn that some questions only make the pain deeper. So I just placed my hand on his head, like I used to when he was a child, and then I walked away. The place he arranged for me was a small portion in an old building. One room, a tiny kitchen, a narrow window. It was clean, simple, quiet, too quiet. The first night there, I could not sleep. The silence was different. In my old house, silence felt warm. Here, it felt empty. I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, and for the first time, a thought came into my mind. A painful one. Maybe I had stayed too long. Maybe I had become unnecessary. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Adil called sometimes, short calls. Are you okay, Ami? Yes, Beta, I am fine. Do you need anything? No, I have everything. Everything. Such a simple lie. Sana, my daughter, lived in another city. She called more often. Ami, you should come live with me. But I always refused. I am fine here, I would say. I did not want to become a burden, twice. Slowly, I adjusted. Be happy, I said softly. I learned how to live in that small space. I made tea for myself, cooked simple meals, sat by the window, watched the world go by. But something inside me had changed. I spoke less, I smiled less, even my prayers felt quieter. Then one afternoon, everything shifted again. A knock on the door. Unexpected, unfamiliar. I opened it, and standing there was a man I had never seen before. In a formal uniform, serious face. Are you Mrs. Parveen? He asked. My heart skipped. Yes. He looked at me carefully, then said something that made the ground beneath me feel unsteady. We need to ask you a few questions about your son. And just like that, a new storm entered my life. We need to ask you a few questions about your son. For a moment, I could not understand his words. They felt distant, like they were coming from far away. My son? I repeated softly. The man nodded. Yes. May we come inside? I stepped aside without thinking. Of course. My small room suddenly felt even smaller. He looked around briefly, then sat on the chair near the table. I sat on the edge of my bed. My hands rested in my lap. I could feel them trembling. Not from fear exactly, but from something else, something I could not yet name. I am from the bank, he said calmly. There has been a situation regarding a financial matter. Bank, financial matter. These were not words I was used to hearing. We tried contacting your son, he continued, but he has not been responding. So we are reaching out to you. I swallowed slowly. Adil is busy with work, I said. Maybe he missed your call. The man looked at me for a moment. There was something in his eyes. Careful, measured. Ma'am, this is serious. My heart began to beat faster. I did not understand why, but something inside me felt uneasy. What kind of matter? I asked. He opened a file, took out some papers, placed them on the table. These accounts are under your name. I frowned. My name? Yes. He turned the papers toward me. There have been large withdrawals. And recently, a complaint has been filed. Complaint. Withdrawals. My name. The words did not make sense together. I don't understand, I said honestly. I don't have any account like this. He pointed to a signature. Is this yours? I leaned forward. My eyes are not as sharp as they used to be, but I could still recognize my own handwriting. It looked like my signature, but something felt wrong. I don't remember signing this, I whispered. He nodded slowly. That is what we need to clarify. My throat felt dry. What kind of withdrawals? I asked. He hesitated for a moment, then said it, a large amount. Over time, it adds up to nearly 80,000. 80,000. I could not even imagine such a number. I had spent my whole life counting small amounts, saving little by little, and now, someone was saying my name was connected to such a large sum. This is not possible, I said softly. There must be a mistake. The man closed the file gently. We thought so too, at first. But all documents point here. He paused. Do you live with your son? I looked down at my hands. No. Did you live with him recently? Yes, until a few months ago. He nodded again, and this time, his voice became even more careful. Ma'am, is it possible that someone had access to your documents? Your ID? Your signature? My mind became very quiet. Strangely quiet, like everything inside me had stopped moving. And then, slowly, a thought began to form. Unclear at first, then sharper, then painful. I remembered a day, not very long ago. Adil had come into my room. Ami, I need your signature for some paperwork, he had said. What paperwork? I asked. Just some bank formalities. Nothing important. I had not questioned him. Why would I? He was my son. I remembered holding the pen, signing where he pointed, trusting, without thinking. I looked up at the man. My voice felt distant, even to me. My son asked me to sign some papers. The man did not look surprised. He only nodded. That helps us understand the situation. A strange feeling spread through my chest. Not anger, not yet, just disbelief. No, I whispered to myself. He wouldn't. The man closed his file. We are still investigating, he said. But we needed to speak with you. You may be required to come to the bank for further clarification. I nodded slowly. I understand. He stood up, walked toward the door, then paused. Ma'am, if you remember anything else, anything at all, please let us know. I will, I said. And then, he left. The door closed, and silence returned. But this time, it was not empty. It was heavy, full of questions. I sat there for a long time, without moving, without thinking, just sitting. My son, my Adil, the boy I had raised with so much care, the boy I had trusted with everything. Would he do something like this? No, I said out loud. My voice sounded firm. He would not. But even as I said it, my heart did not fully believe it. That night, I did not sleep. Memories kept coming back. Small moments, small details, things I had ignored before. The way he avoided my eyes. The way Nadia spoke about space. The sudden decision for me to leave. Was it all connected, or was I just thinking too much? In the morning, I made tea. My hands were steady now. Too steady, like something inside me had gone numb. I picked up my phone, looked at Adil's name. For a long time, I just stared at it. Then, I called. It rang. Once, twice, 3 times. Then he answered. Hello, Ami. His voice sounded normal, calm, just like always. Adil, I said slowly. A man from the bank came yesterday. There was a pause, very small, but I felt it. Oh, yes, he said quickly. There is just some confusion. I will handle it. Confusion. Such an easy word. What confusion, Beta? I asked. Another pause. This one, longer. Nothing serious, Ami. You don't need to worry. I closed my eyes. I signed some papers for you, didn't I? Silence. No answer. A deal? I whispered. His voice came back, but it sounded different now. Tired. A little tense. Yes, you did, but it was just for a small loan. I will take care of it. A small loan? I repeated. They said it was a large amount. This time, the silence was heavy. Very heavy. Ami, please trust me, he said finally. I will fix everything. Trust. That word again. I have always trusted you, I said softly. My voice did not shake, but my heart felt very fragile. I know, he replied. For a moment, I thought he might say more. Explain. Tell me the truth. But he didn't. I will call you later, he said. And the line went quiet. I lowered the phone slowly, placed it beside me, and for the first time, a small crack appeared in my trust. Not a loud break, not a sudden shattering, just a quiet, painful crack. That day, I understood something. Sometimes, betrayal does not come with shouting. It comes quietly, wrapped in soft words, hidden behind silence, and it hurts, even more. I sat by the window again, watching the world move as it always does. But inside me, a storm was slowly building. Because deep down, I knew, this was not just a misunderstanding. Something much bigger was about to unfold. That night felt longer than any night I had lived before. I did not turn on the light. I just sat near the window, wrapped in my old shawl, watching the darkness settle over everything. Sometimes, when life becomes too heavy, you do not cry. You just sit quietly and let the silence speak to you. I kept thinking about his voice. Please trust me, Ami. I had trusted him my whole life. From the moment he was born, until now. Trust had never been a question for me. It had always been natural, like breathing. But now, something inside me was asking questions. Questions I had never asked before. And I did not like how they felt. The next morning, I made a decision. A simple one, but not an easy one. I would go to the bank. I needed to understand the truth. With my own eyes. I wore my cleanest suit. A light gray one, the same one I used for special days. Today did not feel special, but it felt important. The bank was crowded, people moving here and there. Papers, voices, numbers, a world I was not used to. I stood near the entrance for a moment, unsure of where to go. Then I saw the same man from yesterday. He noticed me too, and walked over. Ma'am, you came, he said gently. Yes, I replied. I need to understand. He nodded. Please come with me. He led me to a small office, closed the door, offered me a chair. I sat down slowly. My heart was calm, strangely calm, like it already knew something difficult was coming. He placed the file in front of me again. Opened it. This account was opened under your name, he explained. About a year ago. A year. I thought back. A year ago, I was still living with Adil. Everything seemed normal then. Or maybe, I just believed it was. There were multiple withdrawals, he continued, gradually increasing. I listened quietly. Every word felt heavy, but clear. No payments were made afterward, he added. And recently, a complaint was filed by the bank. Complaint? Against me? I asked. He nodded slowly. Yes, because legally, the account is yours. I looked down at the papers. My name, my signature, everything pointed to me, but I knew this was not my doing. Can I ask something? I said. Of course. Who accessed this account? He hesitated for a moment, then turned a page. There are transaction records. Most of them were done online. But the registered contact number, he paused, belongs to your son. The room became very still. I heard the ticking of a clock somewhere, far away, or maybe, inside my own chest. My son, I repeated. Yes, that was the moment everything became clear. Not suddenly, not loudly, but slowly, painfully clear. He had used my name, my trust, my signature. I did not feel anger. Not yet. What I felt was something deeper, something heavier, a quiet kind of heartbreak. Did he take the money? I asked softly. The man chose his words carefully. All evidence suggests he was the one operating the account. I closed my eyes, just for a moment, and in that moment, I saw him again, Adil, as a child, running toward me, smiling. Ami, look what I made. I opened my eyes, and that image faded, replaced by the truth sitting in front of me. What happens now? I asked. The man took a breath. Legally, this is a serious matter. There could be a case. Possibly even police involvement. Police. The word echoed in my mind. My son, my Adil, in trouble with the police. My heart tightened, not for myself, but for him. Even now, I was thinking of him. Is there any way to resolve this? I asked. Yes, he said, if the amount is repaid, and if the situation is clarified, things may not go further. Repay. The amount was large, very large, more than I had ever seen in my life. I don't have that kind of money, I said honestly. He nodded. I understand. Silence filled the room again. But this time, it felt different. It felt like a decision was waiting to be made. Can I speak to him? The man asked gently. Your son? I looked down at my hands. Then slowly shook my head. He already knows, I said. Because deep down, I knew. He knew everything. From the beginning, I left the bank slowly. Each step felt heavier than the last. The world outside looked the same. But I felt different. As I walked, memories came back again. Not just the good ones, but the small moments I had ignored. The way he had insisted I sign quickly. Ami, it's just paperwork. The way he avoided details. Nothing important. And then, the way they asked me to leave. So calmly, so easily. A thought came into my mind. Clear, sharp, painful. Was that the reason? Was that why they wanted me out of the house? So I would not ask questions? So I would not notice? I stopped walking. For a moment, I could not move. All those months, all that silence, all those small changes. It was not about space. It was about hiding the truth. I felt something rise inside me. Not anger, not yet, but something close to it. A quiet strength. For the first time, I asked myself a different question. Not why did he do this? But, what do I do now? That evening, I did not sit quietly. I did not watch the world pass by. I took out an old box. One I had not opened in years. Inside were my savings. Small amounts, collected over time. Some jewelry, a few important papers. This was everything I had. Everything I had saved. For emergencies. For my children. For their future. I looked at it all. And I knew, this was not enough. Not even close. But still, I gathered it. Placed it carefully on the table. Because even now, after everything, I could not stop being his mother. But something had changed. Something important. This time, I would not act blindly. This time, I needed the truth. Fully, clearly. I picked up my phone again. My fingers paused for a moment. Then, I dialed his number. This time, my voice would not be the same. Because now, I was not just a mother. I was someone who had finally seen the truth. The phone rang longer this time. Once, twice, 5 times. I almost thought he would not answer. But then, his voice came. Hello, Ami, soft, careful, almost cautious. Adil, I said slowly, I went to the bank today. Silence. No quick reply this time. No easy words. Just silence. They showed me everything. I continued. My voice was calm. Too calm. The account. The withdrawals. The number. Registered in your name. I could hear his breathing now. Uneven. Like he was trying to think. And speak at the same time. Ami. I was going to explain. When? I asked gently. Not loudly. Not angrily. Just gently. He did not answer. When were you going to explain? I repeated. I didn't want to worry you, he said finally. A small, tired smile came to my lips. Worry me. So instead, you used my name? I asked. Still calm. Still steady. Ami, please, listen to me. he said quickly. I had no choice. There were problems, business issues. I thought I could fix it before you ever found out. I closed my eyes. For a moment, I let his words settle. No choice, I repeated softly. Everything was collapsing, he continued. I needed money urgently. I thought I could return it. No one would know. No one? I asked. Another silence. I trusted you, I said quietly. My voice changed then, not louder, but deeper, heavier. I did not ask questions when you brought papers. I did not read. I did not doubt, because you were my son. I know, Ami. His voice broke slightly. I made a mistake. A mistake. Such a small word, for something that had broken so much. And asking me to leave? I asked. He went quiet again. Was that also part of your mistake? I continued. No, he said quickly. It was not like that. Then what was it like? A deal? I asked. This time, his voice changed. It became softer, lower, almost ashamed. Nadia, she found out, he said slowly. She was scared. She thought if you stayed, you might discover everything. Or ask questions. I said nothing. So, you both decided, I whispered, that it would be easier if I was not there. It wasn't like that, he said again. But this time, his voice had no strength. Because deep down, he knew. That is exactly what it was. I sat there quietly, holding the phone, listening to the silence between us. I never thought, he said suddenly, his voice trembling now, that it would go this far. I thought I could fix everything. I just needed time. Time. And what about me? I asked softly. He did not answer. What did you think would happen to me? I continued, living alone, not knowing the truth, carrying a burden that was never mine. I'm sorry, Ami, sorry. I took a slow breath. At my age, you learn that anger burns you more than it burns others. So I did not let anger speak. I cannot change what you have done, I said calmly. Yes, but I can decide what happens next. He stayed silent, waiting. I went through my savings today, I said. No, Ami, I know it is not enough, I continued. Not even close. Then please don't, but I will still give it, I said gently. He stopped speaking. Not because you deserve it, I added softly. Silence. But because I am your mother. I felt tears in my eyes. But they did not fall. I carried you for 9 months, I continued. I raised you for years. I gave you everything I had. My voice became slower, softer. This will be the last thing I give. Ami. His voice broke completely now. Please don't say that. I am not saying it in anger, I replied. I am saying it with understanding. Understanding, not forgiveness. Not yet. After this, I said, you will fix your life. With your own hands, not by using mine. I will, Ami. I promise. Promises. I had heard many in my life. Some kept, some broken. I will come tomorrow, I said. To your house. There was a pause. Ami, you don't have to. I do, I said gently. Because this time, I needed to look into his eyes. Not as a mother who trusts blindly, but as a woman who has finally seen the truth. The next day, I stood outside my old house. The door looked the same. The walls, the windows, everything, familiar, and yet, it did not feel like mine anymore. I knocked. Nadia opened the door. Her face changed when she saw me. Surprise. Then, something else. Guilt. Ami, she said softly. I nodded. May I come in? She stepped aside. The house was quiet, just like the day I left. Adil came into the room. He looked tired, his eyes heavy. For a moment, we just looked at each other. Then I walked forward, placed the small box on the table. This is everything I have, I said. He looked at it, then at me. I don't deserve this, he whispered. No, I replied calmly. You don't. Nadia stood quietly in the corner, not speaking. But life is not always about what we deserve, I continued. Sometimes, it is about what we choose to do. I pushed the box slightly toward him. This will help. A little. Tears rolled down his face. I'm sorry, Ami, I'm so sorry. I watched him, my son, broken, ashamed, and in that moment, my heart did something strange. It did not forget, but it softened, just a little. Take care of this, I said. Take responsibility. I will, I promise. I nodded, then I turned and walked toward the door. Ami, he called out. I paused, but I did not turn back. Yes, will you forgive me? The question stayed in the air, heavy, waiting. I closed my eyes for a moment. Then I spoke. Forgiveness takes time, Beta. And with that, I stepped outside. For the second time, I left that house. But this time, I did not feel empty. I felt something else. Not peace, not fully, but something close to it. Because for the first time, I had chosen myself, too. That evening, I returned to my small room. The same narrow window, the same quiet walls, the same simple bed, but something inside me had changed. I placed my shawl on the chair and sat down slowly. My body felt tired, but my heart felt lighter than it had in a long time. Not because the pain was gone. No, pain does not leave so quickly, especially the kind that comes from your own child. But something else had taken its place. Understanding, and a quiet kind of strength. I made myself a cup of tea, the way I always do, boiling the water slowly, adding the leaves, watching the color change. There is something peaceful about small routines. They remind you that life still moves, even when your heart feels heavy. I sat by the window, held the warm cup in my hands, and watched the sky turn soft, and then dark. For the first time in many months, I did not feel like I was waiting for something. Not for a phone call, not for an apology, not for things to go back to the way they were. Because I had finally accepted something. Some things do not go back, and maybe they are not meant to. Days passed, quietly, gently. Adil called again, more often now. His voice was different, softer, careful, like someone who has learned the cost of their actions. Ami, how are you? I am fine, Beta. This time, it was not a lie. Not completely. Sometimes, he would stay silent on the phone, as if he wanted to say more, but did not know how. And I understood. Some words are not easy to say, and some wounds are not easy to heal. Nadia spoke to me too. Once, then again. Her voice was no longer distant. There was something else in it now. Respect, maybe, or regret. Ami, I hope you are well. I am, I replied gently. We did not talk about the past. Not yet. Some conversations need time. Sana, my daughter, visited me one weekend. She looked around my small room, and her eyes filled with tears. Ami, you should not live like this. I smiled. I am not living badly. I said, I am living simply. She held my hands tightly. You gave everything to us. I looked at her, and for a moment, I saw both my children. The one who stayed, and the one who lost his way. I did what a mother does, I said softly. That night, after she left, I thought for a long time. About life, about love, about the choices we make. At this age, you begin to understand things differently. You understand that love does not always come back the way you give it. You understand that sacrifice is not always seen. And you understand that even your own children are not always who you expect them to be. But you also learn something else. Something important. You learn that your worth does not disappear just because someone fails to see it. For a long time, I thought I had lost everything. My home, my place, my importance in their lives. But I was wrong, because I still had something. Something no one could take from me. My dignity, my truth, and my ability to stand up quietly, without breaking completely. Forgiveness. People talk about it like it is easy. Like you can wake up one day, and simply let everything go. But it is not like that. Forgiveness is slow. It is quiet. It comes in small steps. Some days, I feel ready to forgive. Other days, I still feel the ache. And I have learned that both are okay. I do not hate my son. I never will. A mother's heart does not work that way. But I have changed how I love him. Now, my love has boundaries. Soft ones, but real. I no longer give without thinking. I no longer trust without understanding. And that is not weakness. That is wisdom. One evening, Adil came to see me. He stood at the door, just like I once did. Quiet, hesitant. Ami, can I come in? I looked at him for a moment. Then I smiled. Yes, Beta, come in. He stepped inside, looked around the room, and I saw something in his eyes. Pain, regret, and something else, understanding. We sat together, not saying much, just sharing the silence. After a while, he spoke. I am trying to fix everything. I nodded. I know. I don't expect you to forgive me quickly, he said. I looked at him, and for the first time in a long while, I saw my little boy again. Not the man who made mistakes, but the child who once held my hand. Take your time, I said softly, because healing takes time. For both of us. As he left that day, I did not feel the same pain I once did. It was still there, but it was lighter, and I realized something. Life does not end when your heart breaks. It changes, it reshapes you, it teaches you, in quiet, painful ways. And if you listen carefully, it also gives you a new kind of strength. Now, every morning, I open my window, let the fresh air come in, make my tea, and thank God for another day. Not because my life is perfect, but because I am still here, still standing, still able to feel, to learn, to grow. And if there is one thing I have understood after all these years, it is this: love your children, give them your care, give them your time, but do not lose yourself completely. Because one day, when everything becomes quiet, the only person left to hold your heart will be you, and you must be strong enough to hold it gently. I am 78 years old. I have seen love, I have seen loss, I have seen betrayal, but I have also seen my own strength. And now, that is enough for me. Before I go, I want to say something to you, my dear listener. If this story touched your heart, even a little, please take a moment to like this video. And if you believe in stories that carry quiet truths, stories that remind us of love, pain, and strength, then subscribe to this channel, because here, we share real emotions, the kind we often hide, but all of us feel. And if you can, write a small message in the comments. Tell me, have you ever felt something like this? You are not alone. Take care of your heart, and I will see you in the next story. Crescent Moon.